There's M&A going on. It's been pretty. It's increased substantially in the second half of last year. I think I have some stats here. There were, according to my numbers that I looked at this morning, and Evaluate Pharma, which is they pulled together a lot of data in the industry, but they found $165 billion of transactions in 2025 compared to about 118 billion in 2024. So, there's a nice increase year over year, and we've seen it with some of the things that we already discussed. And, I think a few more, let me just mention, there was Blueprint Medicines, and Springwork Therapeutics, in the multi-billion-dollar range. And then there was also Mersana Therapeutics and ADCs. What do these transactions suggest to you about what's going on and what we could see in 2026? And also, I want to mention that the XBI, which is one of the biotech indices that's out there, that's done pretty well so far. Last spring it was in the 60s, and now it's in the 120s. So there seem to be some some green shoots perhaps out there. What does this make you think about 2026? And the environment for small life sciences companies?
If you look at companies that are, for example, I mentioned Replimune, right? So they're targeting similar technology to IFX, distinctly different, but still going after essentially the same concept of making tumors sensitive to your immune system and allowing checkpoint inhibitors to work. They have a market cap in the BLA filing now. They have 6 months before they have their so-called PDUFA date, about 850 million. If you look at them when they entered phase 3, their market cap was around 350 million. If you look at companies that have essentially produced, developed, and then commercialized these menin inhibitors, right? You mentioned it, AML, relapse refractory AML, and they started in the same thing. When they first put their drugs into phase 2, their market cap was in that $350 to $450 million range. They're now in that $1 billion and a half in the setting for Syndex. We're focused in those same two areas. So from a valued gap perspective, we are very undervalued in my view. Clearly, on the comp side of it, we should be somewhere around 3-4x on the low end, maybe 6-7x on the more median, kind of where market cap should be for phase 3 companies that are targeting the targets that we're targeting, and then certainly the AML side of it. So I think that's the first potential in terms of kind of this asymmetric return, if you will, when the market starts to recognize comms and what we're doing. Now, that with regards to your question about M&A activity, you have companies like J&J that are developing menin inhibitors that have made a real push in developing moving into the hematologic franchise, if you will, hematologic malignancy franchise. They now kind of own that space in multiple myeloma. They're clearly moving forward in the AML space with Bluxamenib, which is their very novel menin inhibitor. It seems to have the highest response rate associated with it. So if a VISTA inhibiting antibody, being novel, being the only one being developed in AML, can improve response rate and duration of response by being utilized, like all chemotherapy and treatments always end up being in combination, I think that would be very synergistic with the portfolio direction that a company like J&J is doing. Even companies like Syndex, quite frankly. And here's the rationale. A menin inhibitor gives you a 20% CR and it lasts for 4 months on average. Then they come off your menin inhibitor. Well, the VISTA and a menin inhibitor combination gives you a 35% CR rate, and they stay on it for a year. You can do the math, right? That's not even organic growth. That's growth by the basis of the combination of the two drugs. So we think that VISTA will become very attractive in the hematologic malignancy space to a number of big pharma companies. Let's take a look at the other side of the equation. If you look at Bristol's website, AstraZeneca's website, Lilly's website, and their oncology program, they're all focused in the microenvironment. MDSCs are a really hot target. And if you take a look at their programs, matter of fact, one of the leaders, we'll call him Mr. MDSC, runs immuno-oncology worldwide for AstraZeneca. This is Dmitry Gavrilovich, who worked here at the Moffitt with Alan List on defining this group of cells. We're the first to define a new target on MDSCs, a new target that may play a very big role in the microenvironment. And for intervention. So I wouldn't be surprised if the data that we are generating on inhibiting the delta receptor and the potential to link it to a VISTA inhibiting antibody will have a lot of pharma traction as we start to show proof of concept moving forward. So, I think you're going to see a lot more M&A